My name is Elia, and 3 weeks ago, my father drove me to the edge of a dying town and left me with nothing but a backpack and a lie. Picture this: a 22-year-old shivering under a sky that looked like it had been bruised, abandoned by the man who'd promised to fix everything. But someone else was there, watching from the shadows, and what they knew unraveled a decade of secrets, cruelty, theft, and a family that rewrote me as the villain to keep their own story clean. Before I tell you who that stranger was and how their silence broke mine, drop a comment. What time is it where you are? Where are you watching from? I want to know. The air smelled like rust and wet asphalt that night. We were in his old Ford pickup, the one with the cracked dashboard and a radio that only caught static. I sat in the passenger seat, my knees pressed together, a thin denim jacket doing nothing against the November chill. Dad hadn't spoken since we left the house, his hands tight on the wheel, eyes fixed on the road like he was driving toward a verdict. I knew that look. It was the same one he wore when he'd blame me for Mom's breakdowns, for the bills piling up, for the way our family cracked like cheap glass. "Where are we going?" I asked, my voice smaller than I wanted. He didn't look at me. "Somewhere you can think," he said. "You need to stop dragging us down, Elia." Stop dragging us down. Those words clung to me like damp clothes. I'd heard them before, when I was 15 and Mom found my sketchbook, tore out the pages, and called them proof I was unstable. When my older brother, Marcus, laughed as I begged him to stop reading my texts aloud at dinner. I'd learned to shrink, to apologize for existing. But that night, something felt different. The road narrowed, streetlights fading behind us. We were outside Havers End, a crumbling mill town in northern Ohio, where the river smelled like iron and the houses sagged like they were tired of standing. The truck slowed, tires crunching on gravel, and he stopped at a dirt lot beside a boarded-up gas station. He got out, opened my door, and tossed a backpack at my feet. "Get out," he said, his voice flat, like he was telling me to take out the trash. I froze. "Dad, what?" Before I could finish, he grabbed my arm, pulled me from the seat, and shoved me toward the lot. My ankle twisted on a rock, pain flaring up my leg. "You'll figure it out," he said. "You always do." I scrambled to stand, my hands scraping the gravel. "You can't leave me here." But he was already back in the truck, the engine growling. Red taillights blinked through the dust, then vanished. I stood there, alone, the wind cutting through my jacket, the backpack heavy at my feet. I should have screamed, but all I felt was a strange, hollow calm. I unzipped the bag. Inside, a water bottle, a granola bar, a flashlight with dying batteries, and a folded note in Dad's handwriting. "You need to learn to stand on your own. Don't come back until you do." I crumpled it, my fingers trembling. The lot was surrounded by skeletal trees and the faint hum of the river nearby. No phone signal, no streetlights, just me and the dark. I slung the backpack over my shoulder and limped toward a cluster of pines, where the ground was softer. That's when I saw it, a glint of metal under a bush. I knelt, my breath fogging, and pulled out a small, tarnished locket. It wasn't mine. Oval, silver, with a tiny clasp. I pried it open. Inside was a photo of a girl, maybe 10, with my eyes. Me. But I'd never seen this locket before. My chest tightened. I shoved it into my pocket, my mind racing. Who left this here? Was it Dad's? Someone else's? The air grew sharper, the kind of cold that makes your bones ache. I found a hollow beneath a pine, curled up with the backpack as a pillow, and wrapped my jacket tight. My ankle throbbed, but I didn't care. I clutched the locket, its edges biting into my palm, and whispered, "Please let me make it through this." The night pressed down, heavy and silent, until a snap broke the quiet, a branch cracking nearby. I froze, heart hammering. An animal? The wind? Or someone watching? I held my breath, straining to hear. A rustle, then a low, muffled sound, like someone stifling a cough. Human. I twisted toward the noise, pain shooting through my ankle. In the faint moonlight, I saw them. Boots, scuffed and caked with mud, just beyond the trees. Hello? My voice was barely a whisper. No answer. The boots shifted, and a figure stepped closer. A man, tall, in a worn coat, his face shadowed by a hood. He didn't speak, just crouched beside me and handed me a thermos, warm to the touch. I hesitated, then took it. Hot tea, bitter but thawing. He draped a wool blanket over me, his movements quick, deliberate. "Who are you?" I asked, louder. He didn't answer, just started piling twigs for a fire. His hands moved like they'd done this 100 times. A spark, then flames, small but warm, flickered between us. I sipped the tea, watching him. He never looked at me, just fed the fire. "Are you from around here?" I tried again. Nothing. He handed me a protein bar, then stood, adjusted his hood, and melted back into the trees. I called after him, but my voice died in the wind. The fire crackled, its light dancing across the pines. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was drowning, but I knew it wouldn't last. Back in Haver's End, in our split-level house with its peeling paint and fake flowers, Dad was probably sitting at the kitchen table, sipping coffee, telling Marcus and Mom I'd run off again. Marcus would roll his eyes, say I was being Elia, and Mom would nod, her face blank, like she'd already forgotten me. I shifted closer to the fire, the blanket heavy on my shoulders. The locket burned in my pocket. I pulled it out, tracing the photo. It was me, no question. But the frame was old, the silver tarnished. A memory flickered, Mom yelling about a box in the attic, telling me never to touch it. I'd been 12, curious, but too scared to disobey. Now I wondered what else she'd hidden. The fire died down, and I curled tighter under the blanket, the locket clutched in my hand. I didn't sleep, not really. The cold kept me sharp, the pain in my ankle a constant pulse. At dawn, birds stirred, their calls cutting through the fog. I sat up, wincing, and noticed something new. A piece of paper, folded, tucked under a rock near the fire's ashes. My hand shook as I opened it. My handwriting, from years ago. I don't know why I'm always the one who's wrong. A journal entry, one I'd written at 16, after Marcus blamed me for Mom's missing necklace. I'd hidden that journal under my mattress, but Mom found it, read it aloud at dinner, laughing. "Elia's little tragedies," she'd called it. Everyone laughed. Marcus, Dad, even Aunt June, who'd always been kind until she wasn't. But this page wasn't torn or burned. It was whole, and on the back, in different handwriting, "You were never wrong. Keep going." My breath caught. Someone had saved this. Someone new. I stuffed the page into my pocket and stood, using a branch as a crutch. My ankle screamed, but I moved anyway, following a faint trail of papers. Torn scraps, some mine, some not, scattered like breadcrumbs. One was a drawing I'd done at 14, a sparrow with a broken wing. Another was a letter I'd written to myself at 17, promising I'd leave Haver's End someday. You're not their mistake. Each fragment was a piece of me, stolen, hidden, now returned. The trail led to an old mill by the river, its windows shattered, roof caving in. Inside, the air smelled of mold and oil. Against a wall sat a crate, and on it, a battered laptop, powered by a portable charger. The screen glowed. A blog, anonymous, titled The Unseen. My name was in the search bar. Posts filled the screen. She was blamed for what they broke. Her mother lied about the money. They called her unstable to keep her quiet. Each one knew things I'd never said aloud, only written. One post, dated last spring. "Elia deserves to know she's not alone." My heart pounded. I thought of Lila, my cousin, who'd always been quiet at family dinners, her eyes lingering on me when Mom's voice got sharp. She'd known something, heard something, but never spoke. Was it her? The air shifted. I glanced at the broken window. Fresh footprints led toward the river. I limped outside, following them. The river churned, gray and restless. A figure stood at the bank, hood up, back to me. Not fear, but something else pulled me forward. "Who are you?" I called. They turned, and I saw her face, Lila. Her eyes were red, her hands stuffed in her pockets. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I heard them planning it. I didn't know they'd go this far." My stomach twisted. "You knew they were going to leave me?" She nodded, tears falling. "I tried to warn you. The locket, the papers. I've been saving them for years. I couldn't let them erase you." Lila's words hit like a fist. She'd known about the lies, Mom's accusations, Marcus's thefts, Dad's silence. She'd found my journal after Mom burned half of it, kept the pages, the locket, the truth. But she'd stayed quiet, too scared to speak. I wanted to hate her, but I saw her guilt, heavy as mine. "Why now?" I asked. She pulled a USB drive from her pocket. "This has everything: texts, emails, recordings. They've been lying about you since you were a kid. I'm done being their shadow." I took the drive, my fingers numb. "What do I do with this?" She met my eyes. "Tell the truth." That night, I found a motel on the edge of town, paid with cash I'd scrounged from the backpack. The room smelled of stale smoke, but it was warm. I plugged the USB into the laptop. Files flooded the screen. Mom's text to Marcus about keeping Elia in line. A recording of Dad admitting he'd forged my signature on a loan. Emails between Mom and a lawyer about declaring me unstable to control my trust fund. My trust fund. I'd never known it existed. They'd stolen it, piece by piece, blaming me for their debts. I sat there, shaking, until dawn. The next week, I worked in secret. I got a job at a diner, rented a room above a laundromat, and started painting. Not on canvas, but on the walls of an abandoned warehouse by the river. Murals, raw and jagged. My face, my hands, my words. "I am not your lie." I worked at night, using paint I bought with tips. Lila helped, bringing supplies, keeping watch. She didn't ask for forgiveness, and I didn't offer it. But we worked together, silent, building something bigger than us. The murals grew, covering the warehouse in my truth. Sparrows, broken but flying. A girl stepping out of shadows. Words I'd written as a kid, now loud and permanent. Flashback. I was 16, sitting on the porch. Mom screaming about a missing $200. "You took it, Elia, always sneaking." I hadn't. Marcus smirked from the doorway, his new sneakers gleaming. Later, I found the cash in his room, but when I told Dad, he slapped me. "Stop lying." That night, I drew the sparrow, its wing torn, and hid it in my journal. They found it, laughed, called me dramatic. But Lila was there, watching, silent. She'd kept that drawing, carried it for years. 2 weeks later, the warehouse was done. I posted photos online, anonymous, tagged with hashtag #HaversTruth. The town noticed. People whispered about the ghost artist. A local blog picked it up, then a news site. My murals were everywhere, on X, on TikTok, captioned, "Someone's telling Havers End's secrets." I didn't sign my name. I didn't need to. One night, I saw them, Mom, Dad, Marcus, outside the diner, laughing, sharing a pizza. They didn't know I was alive, didn't care. Lila sat across from them, her face tight, her phone buzzing with notifications about the murals. She looked at me through the window, mouthed, "Now." The next day, I walked into the town's community center, where an art collective was hosting a pop-up gallery. My murals were projected on the walls, anonymous but unmistakable. The room was packed, locals, reporters, kids from my old school. Mom and Dad were there, Marcus too, their faces smug, like they'd come to judge. I stood at the back, hoodie up, heart pounding. The host took the mic. "We've uncovered the artist behind #HaversTruth," she said. "Elia Voss." A gasp rippled through the crowd. Mom's wine glass slipped, shattering. Dad's face went white. Marcus stared, mouth open. I stepped forward, no smile, no apology. "You said I was nothing," I said, my voice steady. "You lied about me, stole from me, left me to die. But I'm here, and this," I gestured to the projections, is what you couldn't burn. The room was silent, heavy. Lila stood, tears streaming, and walked to my side. I'm sorry, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. I should have spoken sooner. Murmurs grew. Phones lit up, recording. I didn't stay for their excuses. I walked out, the air cold but clean, snow dusting the ground. The fallout came fast. The USB drive went to a lawyer, pro bono, who filed charges: fraud, theft, abandonment. The story spread, hashtags trending. Number one Elia Voss, number one Havers Truth. My inbox filled with messages: survivors, artists, strangers. You gave me courage. Your murals saved me. I didn't respond, not yet. I wasn't ready. But I kept painting, smaller now, on canvas, in a studio I shared with other artists. One piece, a sparrow, wing-mended, flying into a blue sky, sold for enough to rent a better apartment.
Flashback? I was 13, hiding in the attic, finding a box with my name. Inside, a letter from my grandmother, who'd died when I was 5. Elia, you're stronger than they know. Don't let them dim you. Mom caught me, snatched it, said it was junk, but Lila had seen, kept a photo of it, sent it to me years later. That letter hung on my wall now, framed. One night, a knock. A girl, 17, nervous, holding a sketchbook. I saw your murals, she said. My dad. He's like yours. I let her in, made tea, listened. She showed me her drawings, dark, jagged, true. Keep going, I told her. Your voice matters. She left, lighter, and I knew I'd see her again. The next week, I started a workshop at the community center, free for kids like her. We painted, drew, wrote. They called it Sparrow's Nest after my murals. I didn't teach them to forget. I taught them to remember. Mom emailed once, "You've ruined us." I deleted it. Marcus called, voice shaking. You didn't have to do this. I hung up. Lila and I talked sometimes, slow, careful, rebuilding. She was trying, and I was learning to let her. The town changed too. People stopped whispering, started listening. My murals stayed, protected by the community. One morning, I walked to the river, the place where it all started. The air was crisp, the water calmer now. I pulled the locket from my pocket, opened it, and let the photo of me float away. I didn't need it anymore. I'm Elia, and I'm not invisible. My story isn't over. It's just mine now. If you've ever had to fight to be seen, to break someone else's lie, tell me in the comments. I read them all. Subscribe for more stories that cut deep and lift high. What's your truth? I'm listening.